Have you
Yeah.
said to people that were your clients or customers, would you like to donate this dog? Or have you ever said that, or or does it break their heart to even think of it?
Most people are really, they're going to do whatever it takes to hold on to them. That's what I find with the client base I have contact with. Right now, actually, if you do have any listeners that have one of these dogs that they feel is too much and is super ball driven, I know the MTA police are actually looking for a dog right now because one of their dogs is seriously ill, lymphoma,
Oh,
and
oh.
they're looking at donation at this point for a lab for detection work. So if you know anyone that's
Well, do you go around to shelters? You know, there's a gal. Do you know Karen Deeds out of Texas?
no, I don't. No.
She has is working. She her husband does what you do. He has
Hmm.
search and rescue dog and or dogs, and he also trains them. There is in Texas, kind of a very large state, could be nowhere
Yeah.
near where this famous gentleman is, but she's now training peanut detection dogs for children
Oh
who
well.
have these
Yeah.
severe peanut allergies. But she's especially her husband, but she on a lesser level has done a lot of this. They have found dogs at shelters. Is that too time consuming?
It's
Because often a dog will wind up in a shelter, Shawn, as we know, for this only reason: too much dog for the situation. Perfectly nice creature.
yeah, and a lot of time initially everything looks good, and then you start putting the dogs through just the steps and the tests. We're looking at usually a 18 month to 2-year-old dog to
Wow.
start training at,
Okay.
and as you start putting them through the test, it's just like guiding eyes program. There's
Yes.
certain levels you get to, and the dog can't make it past that level. And there's a lot asked of these dogs. They're in and out of a police car. They're dealing with large crowds. They're dealing with noise. They're dealing with shiny floor surface, which most household dogs brought into Grand Central on that floor with the chaos that ensues every day
Yes.
there, they're not going to be able to hold it together. And these dogs really, they're very strong. They're
Mentally, you
internally, they
mean
can keep
mentally and
themselves
internally.
together.
So is this one of the reasons that there's all this carrying on now, which is a total sidebar about Westminster and purebred dogs, and it's also awful breeding, 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 and it ruins dogs. And this is all based on British breeding, which was all inbreeding. So people have extrapolated that inbreeding for a century, let's say, in England, where no new blood came into any breed, of
Yeah.
course, has created horrible physical problems. That isn't what's true of the purebred dog in America, but for the most part, with responsible breeders. But when we're looking at the kind of work you're talking about, you will see day in and day out the German Shepherd dog, even with their sensitive stomachs and their hind end problems with hip dysplasia. Is that because that breed has been developed with such a fine mind and yet the power and the strength to do jobs?
Well, there's a big difference between the dog you're going to see at Westminster and the dog you're going to see in a police car. And the dog you're going to see in a police car is typically imported from Europe. And these are dogs that are not bred for a look. They're bred for a purpose. And this is where that selection thing comes in again.
Yes.
The pretty dog's not the best worker at the end of the day.
Although I've never
That's
seen an ugly dog in a police car, to be honest. I mean, they always look so darn handsome. Those German Shepherds are like,
oh yeah.
they're so vain. The song is about them. I mean, they're just always so, majestic, really.
Well, that's the word, majestic. Majestic and pretty a little different. So it's
That's true. That's true.
we see these dogs that come in. They're very strong-willed. They're very high drive. There's stability in them. They're not nervous fear biters. They're not noise sensitive. They're not environmentally sensitive. These are the dogs that are usually selected. And then, as I said before, there's a lot at stake. You have a new handler with a
Mm-hmm.
new dog. We're trying to push these two together. Everyone's learning at the same time, and we get to these different skill levels that dogs have these expectations of success. And if you have a point where a certain dog washes out, that's what they
Explain
call
to
them.
us describe what such a moment would be. You get to the point where you have all a serious, like high level obedience of down and stay and no leash and whatever those things might be about total attention to the handler. Then then what happens? Is one of the washout places when you have to do apprehension of a human and one guy's got the bite suit on, which I think people are kind of familiar with that, and they
Yeah.
can't really handle going after and then letting go when their adrenaline's that high? Is that a big washout spot?
No, it's more or less simple things like I said before about walking across a shiny floor. There's a lot of dogs that just boom, they
Is
everything else
that
looks
right?
great. And
So you have a brilliant dog, easily trained, really attentive to the handler and doesn't fall apart mentally, but walking on a slippery, shiny floor just puts and you can't desensitize them to the shiny floor?
It depends on the dog, and
Right.
it's sometimes it's if the dog doesn't have it naturally, it's a lot of time put into that one thing. Something else is
Yes.
going to pop up usually too.
Yes.
It's not just a floor that
Right,
behavior is
right.
representing.
Well, so why do you think is Germany the main or Belgium the main country from which we import?
It's kind of split. You're getting a lot of dogs out of Czech Republic,
Interesting.
Hungary, Poland.
Really? Now,
Yeah.
what are they doing that we can't do? I mean, I
Uh,
would think that it's a lot more trouble to bring a dog from Europe and have to send someone over there and evaluate a litter or have them pre-choose them. Why
I'll say
can't
it's all about economics
so
because
for
out of
them less expensive to maintain these
longer,
breeding pairs.
it's less expensive for them to maintain longer. They have more land, more open land for this.
Interesting.
And out of one litter, you may get, out of a litter of 10, you may get two that are
That's right.
perfect for selection. You may get a whole litter if you have the right makeup in the mother and father and grandparents. But you may have a whole litter, and some are good for protection for a family, and some are excellent for military or police working.
And you don't bring those dogs over until they're about a year old, or you get them sooner?
If Well, in my case, my dogs were from that stock but born here, and I bring over usually a male to breed to, or seek out who has bought a male in from overseas, and that keeps your gene pool wide open so that you're not crossing a whole bunch of lines that have been crossed in the past, leading to some of those genetic defects that we were talking about earlier.
So that physical strength or stability comes from, in a sense, you've created a purebred mutt, if you will. In other words, there's no parentage in common. So you've got the dad from Czechoslovakia and the mom maybe from New Hampshire, and their bloodlines do not match unless you go back to, I don't know, caveman times, because
Yeah,
that's what they call the mixed breed strength. There's some fancy word for it. Meaning, if you don't breed any relations, you get dogs that are physically and mentally more sane and more
it,
sound.
there is also, though, depending on whose lines of dogs, there has been success in line breeding where to create consistent behavior, people have gone back and line bred dogs where they will go back to the same type of breeding that they had done, and in way back, maybe 6 generations back, there is some relation.
But
And
that many generations back. It's not like people who want a chocolate standard poodle, and the way you get that is brothers and sisters. I mean, sorry to tell you
yeah,
guys, anyone out there who loves your chocolate standards, and I have 3 friends that have them, the way you get a chocolate standard poodle is you do total incest. Not great in terms of mental stability and later physical health. Well, I don't know. Wouldn't this be a great opportunity? Maybe it's goofy of me, but people living, whether it's in the Midwest, whether it's in Texas, whether it's in the Northeast, that have a big property, is there any sense in trying to, because we obviously have an enormous need for these dogs in so many areas of detection, to try and think about, or I'm sure many people have. I
they
know,
are. There was actually a bill in Congress that they were looking to try and take, because a lot of money goes overseas for
that's
dogs.
what I'm wondering. Why don't we keep it here? Well, let's bring some industry back to the U.S., darn it.
They've been working on it. There's more and more of it going on. Especially with the dollar euro influx, it definitely has become a little bit more profitable to buy a dog from here, because a green dog, green meaning limited training, 18-month-old dog, to buy from Europe is going to cost in the $7,000 range.
Wow.
That's not a lot of training
Wow.
on that dog either.
Wow. You mean just basic, maybe sit, stay at best?
Not
Well,
even.
this is everyone listening in these challenging economic times. It's not that costly to breed dogs. I mean, that's why the horrible dog breeding, puppy mill stuff springs up. But if you listen, dogsareasy.com, get in touch with Shawn. See, to me, if I didn't have several other careers, I think that would be such a wonderful challenge to keep a breed strong and fabulous and feel you're contributing to part of our country's security and also the safety of the military and police officers. Because by giving them a fine quality dog, you've given them a partner who will save their life and the lives of others, right?